Have you ever thought about how a single person's skill, completely unrelated to politics or warfare, could change the course of history? I promise by the end of this video, you'll see history differently. Today, we're diving into an extraordinary chapter of the past that shows us how the humble craft of a clockmaker, yes, a clockmaker, saved the future of an entire kingdom. This is the story of Augustin Froment, a name you've likely never heard before, but someone whose brilliance safeguarded one of Europe's most iconic realms nearly 500 years ago. Let's start with the backdrop. The time is the mid-16th century. The Kingdom of Navarre, in what is modern-day Spain and France, is under immense pressure. Sandwiched between the expanding powers of France and the Spanish crown, Navarre was at risk of being swallowed alive. Tensions ran high on both sides, and invasions were not just probable, they were imminent. Nation-states as we know them were consolidating, and smaller territories, like Navarre, were precariously close to obliteration. Now, here comes Augustin Froment. Froment was a brilliant craftsman, a horologist or a clockmaker to be more specific. By today's standards, clockmakers might be considered engineers, mathematicians, and artists rolled into one. These were individuals who worked on the bleeding edge of what we'd consider innovation. And Froment wasn't just any clockmaker. His fame already spanned across Europe. He built intricate mechanisms, the likes of which people had never seen before. In his workshop, threads of science and artistry were woven into functioning timepieces, automata, and celestial models. His work was akin to magic for most of the 16th century population. The turning point came when Jeanne d'Albret, the Queen of Navarre, heard of this enigmatic craftsman. Jeanne was a revolutionary monarch in her own right. A woman of immense intelligence, she was also under growing pressure to secure her kingdom's independence and maintain its cultural vitality. Jeanne was not one to sit idly by and let disaster strike. She reached out to Froment with a peculiar commission. She wanted him to build a clock, but not just any clock. This clock would become a symbol of Navarre's ingenuity and sovereignty. Froment was tasked with constructing an astronomical clock so advanced and so awe-inspiring that it could rival anything in the great courts of Europe. But why an astronomical clock, you might wonder? Well, in those days, astronomy wasn't just about stargazing. It was deeply tied to diplomacy, agriculture, religion, and even navigation. Such an artifact would signal to both France and Spain that Navarre wasn't just a small, inconsequential kingdom. It was a hub of progress and intellect. It was a statement piece intended to command respect and dissuade potential conquerors. Froment worked tirelessly, pouring his life into the project. He designed a clock that was nothing short of a masterpiece. It displayed the time, of course, but also phases of the moon, the movement of the planets, and even eclipses. It was adorned with intricate carvings, precious metals, and countless moving parts. This wasn't just a timepiece, it was a narrative in motion, a declaration that Navarre wasn't to be underestimated. When the clock was unveiled in the royal palace, the court was astounded, and whispers of this mechanical marvel quickly spread far and wide. Diplomats from France and Spain who visited Navarre were equally awestruck. Here was a kingdom they thought was small and insignificant, showcasing an artifact so advanced that it was comparable to anything found in Paris, Madrid, or even Vienna. Froment's creation had achieved its intended effect. It became much harder for Navarre's more powerful neighbors to dismiss it as a minor player in the geopolitics of Europe. The clock didn't just count hours, it bought Navarre precious time to strategize, negotiate, and sustain its independence a while longer. Jeanne d'Albret, always a pragmatic leader, used the aura of innovation surrounding the clock to her political advantage. She ensured that visiting emissaries and dignitaries from rival nations viewed the clock in all its glory. They left Navarre not just impressed, but intrigued, maybe even a little intimidated. And all of this was achieved without a single sword drawn or war waged. But the story doesn't end there. Froment's clock became a lasting legacy. Generations came to see it as a symbol of what a small, but determined kingdom could accomplish. When Jeanne's son, King Henry IV, ascended the French throne years later, the echoes of this clock's significance were still evident in his rule. He would go on to unify France and establish policies informed by his mother's innovative approach to alliances and diplomacy. So, what happened to Froment and his creation? Unfortunately, the original clock has been lost to history, much like many great artifacts of the past. Wars and revolutions have a way of erasing tangible pieces of legacy. However, manuscripts detailing its mechanisms and design still survive in fragments, giving us some insights into its complexity and brilliance. As for Froment, his work continued to influence future clockmakers, and he remained an honored name in horology circles. It's remarkable, isn't it? How a clock, a single work of craftsmanship, could become a silent but powerful weapon in the survival of a kingdom. Froment's astronomical clock stands as a testament to the fact that intellectual brilliance and creativity can rival the might of armies and empires. So next time you glance at the clock on your wall or check the time on your phone, think about Augustin Froment. Think about Jeanne d'Albret and the Kingdom of Navarre. Think about what it means that something as intricate, yet as fundamentally simple as a clock could change the fate of nations.